Oh, hello there. I'm your favorite pirate, and I'm going to be teaching you some of the first survival lessons of the new normal. That's right. The world has changed considerably since my time, but there are a few things that are always universal. First off, your most important survival tool lies right between your ears. I would take in good information, smart thinking, not stupid stuff. And secondly, you are only as sharp as your blade. Now, what does that really mean? Come on. You've been thinking ahead about things like you've got automobile insurance, homeowners insurance, you've got health insurance, life insurance, but what kind of future insurance do you have? I'm asking you to think about this. Is it smarter to be prepared ahead of time for an emergency? Or is it better to scramble around and try to figure out how to survive after one? That's what the question is tonight. Pay close attention to the serious part, then we'll have a bit of fun at the end.
The Boston bombing trial has come to an end, and it's now time for us to reflect, what did we learn from this best of the most horrible tragedies? Now, why do I say best? Because let me give you some things that have come out of this that are going to make people understand why what I'm saying now is so much more vitally important. Our new normal is made up of catastrophic natural disasters or horrific man-made disasters. So going into a situation better prepared, we would know how to deal with that. For example, one of the Boston hospitals heard about our Aurora theater shooting, and that's where I'm from. I'm not too far from the Columbine High School, which had the horrific shooting as well. So I'll sum up what that taught me in a moment. But out of that Aurora theater shooting, they heard that one hospital took, of the 58 wounded victims, they took 21. And this hospital went, you know what, we've never had a disaster drill where we took 21 people at once. Let's run one. Guess what? During the Boston bombing, they got 21 people. Now, let's step back one further step to the actual moments after the bombing. Why I said this was the best of our worst disasters, there were hundreds of National Guardsmen. There were a couple of hundred police officers. And within 2 blocks of the 2 blasts, there was a tent load of doctors and nurses. When the explosions went off, many of the people in the crowd knew what to do immediately and just got to work. And about 7 to 8 people were known to be saved that might otherwise have died if they hadn't been tourniqueted so completely, so quickly. This was truly a lucky, miraculous situation considering the horrible consequences. But this is what it should have taught us. You need to be more selfish. Now that sounds crazy. No. In a disaster, you're going to be your doctor until help arrives. Now, hopefully, you're going to be surrounded by a crowd in Boston. But no, you could be anywhere else. A car wreck, fallen in the shower. You may have to be your own first responder. So you need to know first aid. And here's the other one. And this one comes out of my personal experience. When I was a student at the University of Oklahoma, one night I was called about an accident near the campus, and another reporter and I happened to get there before the ambulances did. The police officer, when he saw us, started screaming, "Help me get the door open, I can hear the ambulance, we've got to get him free." We did. We yanked on that door. 3 of us gave every bit of strength we could, and we finally ripped it free from the door, from the car. But then what do you do? What do you do? If that was your loved one sitting there, what are you trained to do? You don't want to stand there helplessly. You want to know that you gave every ounce of your strength, every bit of your mental maturity, and you got in there and you did what you could to save their life. Because it's a helpless, helpless feeling that I carried all these years later. So, who is the first responder? Let's think about that for a moment. Whether it be your child who was shot in a classroom, whether it be your wife who was shot in a mall, whether it be your parents who were stabbed while out worshiping, whether it be your cousins or your siblings that were at a theater and they were attacked. What if it was you at work? Do you want your future, your survival, to be based on what other strangers know about first aid? This is why we've got to make it universal. If everybody grows up knowing that if something happens to me, everybody else around me is trained, I want to make sure that I'm trained to give back if they need me. That level of cooperation can be taught to very young children, and you bring them along slowly. You start with simple stuff, how to call 911, what happens if mommy or daddy don't respond, those kind of basics. You could teach them about blood and why shots hurt today but save us from pain later. You can teach them why it's so important to brush longer than they think they should so they don't have dental problems in the future. But then, as they grow older and wiser, we can begin to teach them into cooperative units of how to react in a disaster. What if a tornado hit your child's school and it crashed down and there's 5 or 6 of them in one little sheltered corner, and 2 of them are seriously hurt? The only first responders that can get there quickly are those other children standing beside them. You get it? This is critical. Not just for you and I possibly being saved in the future, or not for you and I necessarily saving someone in the future. But if we can start to cooperate, and if we can teach each other to get into these cooperative actions that benefit the community at larger scales, then there is hope for humanity. I'm Survivor Jack, and I got a guest star for you to end this thing up. All right, you civilians, I want you to listen and listen tight. You heard what Survivor Jack had to say. We need to take this seriously. We need to start teaching our kids first aid, because how would you feel if one of your classmates had been shot and you're standing there not knowing what to do? I think you'd want to get in there and help, and so do your little partners. So let's get the kids started training early. Let's learn how to cooperate using first aid survival drills. And someday, if a big disaster happens, all of us will be ready to pitch in and do our part. I'm Survivor Jack's friend. We're excited to have you as part of this series, and we're inviting you back to the new normal number 3.